Senator from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, I met with Rita Lewis of Westchester, Ohio, in southwest Ohio. She was here to testify in front of the Senate Finance Committee in honor of her late husband, Butch. Butch worked as a trucker for 40 years with the promise that the pension he earned would be there to care for his family after he retired. I would also add that Butch had been drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates to play baseball some 45 years ago and instead enlisted to go into the U.S. Army in Vietnam, was injured and could never play baseball again competitively. He came back and became a trucker and joined the Teamsters. As I said, he worked as a trucker for 40 years with the promise that the pension he earned would be there to care for his family after he retired. But for Butch and Rita and thousands more Ohio retirees, that promise is under threat. Truckers and mine workers in Ohio and across the country are both facing crippling cuts to the benefits they've earned. The Multi-Employer Pension Reform Act that Congress passed 2 years ago allows pension trustees to propose massive cuts to the earned benefits of retirees when a plan is running low on funds. This is disgraceful. If a pension fund is in bad shape, it's our job to fix it, not break promises to American workers who have worked their whole lives to earn that pension. I believed that 2 years ago when I voted against that law that allowed these proposed cuts. I believe it more strongly now. That's why I'm calling on the Treasury Department to reject immediately the proposed cuts to the Central States Teamsters pension. I'm calling for us to immediately mark up and pass the Miners Protection Act, which would protect the benefits Ohio workers earned over a lifetime of work. Under MEPRA, the bill I talked about a moment ago, multi-employer pension trustees like Central States are now able to propose massive cuts to the earned benefits of participants and retirees if the plans are, quote, in critical and declining status. Pension trustees for plans in critical and declining status may submit an application for proposed benefit cuts to U.S. Treasury Department. The Central States Pension Plan trustees use the authority of MEPRA to propose cuts of as much as 70%. But in their own application, they admit even with these drastic cuts, their plan, get this, still only has a 50.4% chance of remaining solvent. In other words, they're asking Treasury to approve massive, life-shattering cuts to hundreds of thousands of workers for what amounts to a coin flip. Treasury should immediately reject this application. Put yourself, something we don't do well around here, put yourselves in the place of a worker who's planned for her retirement with her family. She expected a $2,000 a month pension on top of $1,200 a month Social Security. She all of a sudden finds out her pension is cut 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%. And that was the money she planned to live on. She has some savings, but all that was calculated because it was a promise from this pension plan to honor that commitment of decades earlier. As I said, Treasury should immediately reject this application. The Mine Workers Pension Plan, on the other, is too far gone to use MEPRA. The United Mine Workers of America's 1974 pension plan covers 100,000 mine workers, including thousands of miners in eastern and southern Ohio. It was almost completely funded before the financial collapse of 7 years ago, brought on by Wall Street overreach and greed, but the plan was devastated by the recession. It has too few assets, too few employers, and too few union workers paying in. If Congress fails to act, thousands of retired miners could lose their health care this year, and the entire plan could fail as early as next year. There's a bipartisan solution proposed by Senator Manchin, Senator Casey, me, and others. It's supported by leaders in both parties. If it were brought to the floor today, it would pass with an overwhelming majority. It's time for the Senate to act. The Finance Committee should mark up this legislation this week. The Senate should bring it to the floor immediately. Miners worked in dangerous jobs, dangerous that there may be a mining accident, explosion, or collapse every day when they go to work. Dangerous in the sense that so many mine workers die early because of premature bronchial illnesses and heart ailments brought on by working in the mines. They've worked underground their whole lives to put food on the table, to send their kids to school, to help power this country. Truckers crisscross the state and the country to pay the bills, support their families, drive our economy forward. They all deserve the full pension and health benefits they were promised and that they worked a lifetime to earn. Butch Lewis led the Southwest Retirees Pension Committee's fight against cuts to their earned benefits. He passed away on New Year's Eve due to a stroke, which doctors have attributed, at least in part, to the stress he faced over the proposed pension cuts, not just to him and his family, but to the workers he was fighting for as a union activist. His wife Rita's widow benefits have already been cut. She faces an additional 40% reduction because of the proposed cuts put forth by Central States. Butch said the cuts being forced on retirees, his words, amount to a war against the middle class and the American dream. He's right. Ohio's retired workers have earned their pensions and their retirement savings over a lifetime of hard work. It was promised to them, whether they work behind a desk, on the factory floor, down in the coal mines, or behind the wheel. We should honor Butch's memory by continuing his work. That means coming together to support a bipartisan solution to protect Rita's benefits and the pensions of tens of thousands of retired Teamsters and retired mine workers.